Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Ascent, the live stream powered by Meridian Technology Center. My name is Julie Griffin. I'm a project manager here in our Workforce and Economic Development Division, and I am so excited to be with you once again. We took off July because, schedules and vacation and everything, but we are back. Our department never left, but we've got all of our teachers back on campus. We're having a great day together. And I'm excited to share with you today our topic and our speaker. She is a coworker of mine and one of my dearest friends. And I need to pause and take a breath and remind y'all that if you're here watching, drop a comment because that's how we know you're here. I know I have my channels paired. I know our guest has her channels paired. So if you're here watching, no matter where you are, drop a comment and let us know you're here. So with that, I am going to bring in our guest, Miss Marcy Luter.
Hello.
Extraordinaire and dear friend of mine. And there's our background that I forgot to have up a second ago. Welcome, my friend. Welcome to the Ascent.
Thank you. I'm tickled to be here. I've heard so many good things from other guests of yours about how fun this is. I'm excited to get the chance to hang out here as well.
I'm so glad. So why don't you because I could talk about you all day long, probably not in the most concise manner, but so why don't you just real quickly tell everybody who's here a little bit more about what your role is here at Meridian and maybe how long you've been doing it, and then we'll jump into our topic at hand.
Sounds perfect. So I have been with Meridian Technology Center. This is my 16th school year that I'm starting. I'm very excited about that. I started as a trainer actually for staff and leadership development types of programming. So when clients in our district and the businesses that we serve wanted to have someone come in and talk to them about leadership skills or supervisory skills or those types of things, I had the opportunity to be pulled into those projects, and I've always enjoyed it. But I quickly realized that I could help a lot more businesses and affect change in a lot more clients if I created a team of adjunct instructors who provided that training, and then my role was really to go out and do more on the consulting side of that piece and find out what their needs were, and then match clients up with the instructors that they needed. So that's really what I've been doing here. Again, still staying in that staff and leadership development ring, and I love it. It's so much fun.
Very cool. Very cool. So I know especially in our career tech world, when people think about, programming for adult learners, especially in the leadership management develop, like they think of Marcy Luter and Meridian, right? And I think one of the reasons that is because of your wildly successful lunchtime learning program that you have built up. And like I said in the event text, like those wildly successful programs don't happen overnight. And it's easy to look over that sometimes, especially as a new coordinator wanting to kind of emulate what you have been able to build. So why don't you just kind of take us back to the beginning and kind of help us understand the story of how that came about and what were what did that look like at the very beginning?
Absolutely. So my job, in my mind, one of the big points of my job is making Meridian's our campus here in Stillwater, as accessible as possible. We are very much a taxpayer-funded facility, and so in my mind, what better way for taxpayers to better understand what's going on with their tax dollars than if they can actually come onto campus and be a part of our activities. And so years and years ago, we decided it would be really beneficial if we could get more of our business clients on our campus. We have a beautiful facility. It's well taken care of. It's fresh. We always have new activities and cool things to see. But just getting people here, especially when they're not in that high school and young adult learning focus, is a challenge. And so we really wanted to get as many people here as possible to just see how great our facilities were. And at that point, there was programming provided by partner organizations of ours in like the HR industry, like high level, very important HR focus. But there wasn't necessarily anything for the group that I like to call needs to know enough to be dangerous. Right? They don't necessarily need like a PhD level of information in a certain topic, but they need to be able to know how to take care of those things. And what I have learned for a lot of the people that are in like those leadership roles or those supervisory skill roles, oftentimes they're the same people that take care of the payroll and they take care of finance, and they take care of all these different components in the organization. So I really wanted to create some training where people could come in. And originally, the message was all about human resources. Our program was called HR Matters, and we really wanted people to come in and just learn a little bit more about the HR side of things. So we did things like diversity training and with supervisory skills and those types of things. And then a few years later, we came alongside and started offering some leadership training. And at
Mm-hmm.
the time, we kept those tracks very separate, and that worked for a while. But then when we started talking to our clients a little bit more about specific topics they were interested in and those types of things, they were like, those programs, they didn't see the two separate tracks, the HR track and the leadership track, quite like we did. And so a few years ago, we made the executive decision to just combine it into one, and we call our series Lunchtime Learning. We started when we first started our programming. If we had 6 people, we were cash flowing, and we celebrated, and we had the session, and it was great. And like you said, now we're growing. We have about 110 chairs in our lecture hall, and we regularly run out of chairs, which is so much fun. It's such a great problem to have.
That's awesome. What an amazing growth from having 6 people and celebrating that to being at the point where like cut off the registration. We
Right,
are full and we don't want people to have to stand during the session.
right.
That is so exciting.
It definitely is. We always I always have hunches on what programs I think are going to be the big sellers for each
Mhm.
season that we offer training for. But it's fun because sometimes I'm correct and sometimes I am just wildly off course, and it's fun to be surprised as well. So it's cool. It's a really cool job.
That's awesome. So over the years, when you officially became the Lunchtime Learning Program and you brought those two kind of career track trainings together,
Mhm.
what have been some of those more popular trainings or higher demand topics that people either keep asking for or the ones that sell out?
Absolutely. So customer service is always a big deal. We see that ebb and flow every 2 to 3 years. Organizations are like, we have got to get back on track with customer service. We've got to figure out how we can up our game there. And so that's always one that's very popular. Our biggest seller last season was a class that was essentially how to get along with people that you have to work with, but you just don't really enjoy working with. It was wildly successful because we all have those people in our lives, whether it's personal life adjacent or work life adjacent, where we're like, man, if I had the opportunity to vote you off the island, I would take it in a heartbeat, right? So,
Right.
so those are always popular. We also do occasionally we do sessions that are more about self awareness. So whether that's working genius, which Julie's training for us next week, and it's already sold out. That's always fun. We're very excited about that
Yay.
one. But whether it's an assessment for working genius or strengths finder or Enneagram, those types of things, people love learning about themselves and their team. So that's always really popular. But then there's some wild cards, Julie. Like we did one a few years ago on voice command. Like how do you
Oh.
control how your voice sounds and those types of things. I never dreamed that that one would be a sellout, but it was. So you just never quite know what's going to resonate with people.
Mhm.
But it's really fun now because a lot of people that we see bring their team, right? They see a topic that they think is interesting, and then they say, okay, how can we pull other people in? We even have a couple of groups that will reserve rooms on campus right after the sessions, so that then they can go back and find a space and have a quick conversation about like, why is this important to us? Why do we need to pay more attention to it? Those types of things, which really that's the goal of our work, right? Is to help
Right.
people understand better what they need to do to be more effective in the workplace. So that's always a win.
Awesome. I love it. And I'm going to pop this comment up real quick.
Yeah.
I don't know if you said it and I was commenting or responding to comments and I missed it, but starting with 6 and having, you know, hundreds now, what was the time frame for that?
Yeah, so like I said, I've been here a little over 15 years. So I would say we started probably 3 years in. So it's probably been 10 to 12 years.
Okay.
Obviously, just like everybody in every industry, well, just about every industry, COVID was challenging because before COVID, we had said we don't do online training for these types of things because the instructors that I have traditionally hired for the lunchtime learning sessions are highly interactive, and it's not that they don't perform well on Zoom and those types of things. It's just a different experience designing and delivering curriculum on an online
Absolutely.
format. And so we hadn't really done that. But when we all realized that the pandemic was going to keep us away from our offices for a little more than the couple weeks that everybody initially thought. We had to pivot quickly, or I guess we chose to pivot quickly. We had a lot of my counterparts were like, well, let's just wait and see how this turns out. Well, we wanted to keep providing people with the education that they had been growing accustomed to. And so we pivoted and we started offering that in an online format. Um, my colleagues and I did a lot of training online at the very beginning to try and figure out, like, how do we make the most? We chose Zoom as our platform, but how do we make the most of that platform? How do we figure out how to make it as interactive as possible? Because to me, that's where a lot of the magic happens in our training sessions is, turn to a partner and talk about this, or sit down with your worksheet and think about how this makes sense, those types of things. And so it was really important to me that we utilized those types of things. But I think we did it well. I think we pivoted quickly and efficiently. We still averaged probably around 50 people for each of our lunch and learns during the pandemic, which I was tickled pink with because everybody had a lot on their plate at that time. But now we're finally starting to see those numbers bump back up again. I think a big part of our success is we offer a great lunch. We want people to leave nourished both from a food perspective, but then also from an educational and mindset perspective. And so we just pay attention to that whole experience.
Very good. And speaking from an attendee standpoint, because during pandemic time, I wasn't on the Meridian team yet. And so I was a participant in several of those. And during that time, everybody converted to Zoom or online, and some did it very well, and some did not. And Meridian was definitely part of that camp that did things well. I mean, being engaging and using breakout rooms and all the different features and things that Zoom has to offer. So from a participant standpoint, I definitely think that Meridian did that very, very well to continue offering that training at the high level that you guys expect of yourselves and those of us who attend expect to receive as well.
Awesome. Well, that's great to hear. One of my personal philosophies is if you're going to do something, you need to do it well. You need to commit to doing it well. So I was so tickled that Meridian is such a supportive workplace in the fact that we said, hey, we don't know how to do this. I mean, I hadn't done a lot of Zoom before before the pandemic hit. And so trying to figure out what does that look like? And ultimately that only made us better, both myself and our instructors, trying to figure out, okay, what do we need, and how can we continue to deliver that even after a lot of the remnants of the pandemic have passed? We're still able to offer both of those options to our clients. And our instructors are so much more comfortable now, right? Because they had so much experience back then. Yeah.
For sure. It was a great way to embrace, just continuing to serve people. Because I think that's really what our kind of role is here at Meridian, is just serving people. And I'm sure Dr. Major would slap me for not remembering what our vision and mission is since we just went over it. But I think what you guys continue to do through the pandemic, converting to Zoom, what you're doing now really kind of lives into that. The whole purpose of Meridian, what we do in workforce development.
Yes. One of the phrases that you hear around here a lot is just meeting people where they are, right? Because everybody comes to our campus with different needs, whether that's a short-term need, whether that's a, hey, I've got a group of friends and we want to come and do a cake decorating class, whether that's, I want to transition my career or I need to upscale my career, those types of things. It's just meeting people where they are. And so that's a really important thing to all of our staff. That's a really important lens that we look things through, and we just want to be as approachable as possible because you never know, right? You never know what people are going through and what's on the other side of their world. So
Exactly.
we want to make the most of the opportunities that we get when we get to engage with them.
That's awesome. So thinking about what classes you have going forward this fall, kind of maybe throw out a couple teasers about what you have coming up so people can look forward to signing up to those classes that you have scheduled.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, on Tuesday of next week, Julie's going to do a training session on the Working Genius curriculum that she has been certified in delivering. If you haven't had the opportunity to go through that assessment, it only takes about 10 minutes and it's what, $25, Julie, is that right? So it's a very approachable assessment tool and it provides just a wealth of information. So we're very excited about that class. I think that'll be really fun. And what often happens is when we sell out a class like we have for that class on Tuesday, people are like, when are you going to offer it again? And generally we don't offer things over again very, very quickly on the usual basis. But that one we're lucky, right? Because you're going to be offering that training session down at our Guthrie campus, our South campus, in just a couple of months. So we're super
Yep.
excited that people will get the opportunity to take that one again if they didn't get a chance to sign up on Tuesday. The next one after that, I'm super pumped about our friend Krista Scamahorn down in the metro area. She used to have a role similar to mine, and now she's a full-time instructor trainer for the career tech system and other clients. But she is doing a session on how to gain confidence and charisma. And I think that'll be one that a lot of people get excited about too. It's one of those things that gives people the chance to really think about how they connect with the rest of the world. What happens? How, what kind of lens people see them through, those types of things. So I'm excited about that one. And then another session I love, and this shows my true colors, Julie. I am a junkie for the new year.
Okay.
I'm married to a person that looks at it and says, well, it's like what, January 32nd. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But to me, January 1 is a totally fresh start. And we have Lorinda Schrammel coming later this fall, right before we hit into the high level of the holiday season. And she's going to do a session on vision boarding. I think that's a topic that was a big deal probably 20-ish years ago. Since then, it's gone a little off the radar. Some may even think of it as a little bit cheesy, but she's been to some training on how to really freshen that up and give people the opportunity to utilize some of the cool tools like Canva and those other types of websites that we have now, to just be really accessible and trying to figure out what your goals are and how can you present them in a really graphic and in your face image that those of us that are hustlers toward our goals can really focus on.
Yep.
So she's doing that session, and I'm all in for that class. I cannot wait.
I'm excited about that one too. And I'm
Yes.
so excited that as an employee, I get to attend those too because I'm similar vein as you love to like learn all the things and participate and grow. And it's a great opportunity, especially just to, support you as well as a coworker, support the good work that you're doing.
Isn't it the best when you see someone that you care about just knock it out of the park? Like, to me, that's
Yes,
just what a great gift whenever you get to come to work and you get to see that happen. I think that's just really fun.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. So we have a few more minutes. And so what do you want to talk about some of the other programming that you have as well, in addition to the specifically lunchtime learning branded sessions? I know there's some
I
others that you have to
do.
offer that kind of in the same vein, but different.
I would love to. So one of the other really fun parts of my job is the customized training that we get to offer.
Mhm.
So we serve a lot of businesses within the 10 communities that Meridian Technology serves. And I never know, right? And when I go in and I talk to someone either on their training and development team or their HR team or just a leader or supervisor within the organization, and I say, hey, what can I help you with? One of the first questions that I often ask is like, what's keeping you up at night, right? Like, what's bothering you enough that it's causing lack of sleep or making you anxious or whatever. And generally, it's something related to leadership in terms of my people don't know how
Mm,
to do this, or our culture doesn't feel XYZ or whatever. So I have the opportunity on a very regular basis, and it's one of my favorite things, to help leaders determine what their next steps are to improving their culture or improving their trajectory going forward. And I got to tell you, coming out of the pandemic, I have heard the phrase back to basics more in the last six
mm,
months than I have ever heard it before from our clients. They really are trying to figure out, like, how do we get back to, not only back to where we were pre-pandemic, but how do we take what we learned and make ourselves even stronger from it? And so that's been a really, really important, impactful thing. I have one client that I'm working with right now, and they're trying to strengthen their peer interviewing program. So it's a larger client. They have a great team in place trying to figure out, how do you take a client that applies for a job and discern, do they have the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities to do the job? If the answer is yes, then what they like to do is they like to bounce them into a peer interview process where people in the organization that are already noted high performers can go through and say, okay, like, do we feel like this person is going to be a great fit culturally? Do they represent the values that we hold important? Do we feel like they're a lifelong learner? Those types of things. And so just trying to help them strengthen that program, figure out how to train people, figure out how to not only make that a requirement, but make that an exciting opportunity. Those are the types of projects that are just really, really fun. We're also about to kick off our supervisory academy. We do that. It's a 7-week session every every season. So we do it in the fall, we do it in the spring. Lorinda Schrammel facilitates that for us, and we're about to kick that off. And that is always so much fun because people, they just get a ton out of that information. They get so excited about it, and they realize, oh my goodness, the things that I struggle with as a leader are the things that everybody else struggles with as a leader. Leadership can be really isolating. So it's fun to be able to offer those types of training and content sessions within our communities.
Very good. I love that. I hate the saying misery loves company, but it's truly comforting when you know that you're not the only one facing a certain, what seems like a very specific type of challenge. And so I love that you're able to offer an environment where people can come together and learn and relate also, and then, learn from, a subject matter expert on what is advised, and then maybe hear from others about, well, what they've tried, what's worked, what not. Because I know the value that I've gotten from some of those sessions is the learning that happens side to side, not only from the speaker.
I think you're absolutely right, Julie. I learned very quickly in college that I am not a lover of lecture-based learning. I can do it. I'm a good student, and I can remember and recall information enough to take a test and do just fine. So I consider myself lucky in that respect, but I also I don't learn as much unless I have the opportunity to experience it, to see the knowledge, to talk with somebody, like you said, interact with it. And so all of our curriculum in our area, and I would really say across our campus and within the career tech system, is designed where it's very hands-on, right? So sometimes it's hard to do hands-on training and leadership and staff development, but we try to make that happen with communication and conversation and situations and what would you do in it. Nobody likes to role play, but if you don't call it role playing and you do it in certain situations, it's really effective. So anytime we can incorporate that, I think it makes a difference. And to be quite honest, I think that's the secret sauce behind our lunchtime learning is we treat people like adults. We give them the opportunity to learn from somebody that's been through it, not just talking about it. And we give them a chance to kind of wrestle with it and figure out, okay, who am I in this? Where am I in this? What's my part that I need to own, and how can I make that better? And it makes all the difference when people walk away and they're just that much more confident in their leadership skills. That's a good day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That is a good day. So when it comes to planning your sessions, how do you pick them? Like, what is your process and how far in advance does that happen?
So it's interesting that you asked that. I have tried a variety of different techniques over the years. I have gone from a very intense rubric to try and figure out, okay, like what are the combinations of things that people might like to learn about or might need to learn about in a leadership role. We've done extensive surveys over the years and different focus group conversations where we brought people in and said, okay, talk to us about what you need or talk to us about what other people need, those types of things. But quite honestly, my favorite way to do it is just to go with my gut. I have a tremendous group of instructors now that are just ridiculously insightful on a thousand different topics. And so one of the things that I like to do is before I start planning, so I start planning about a year out. And before I start planning, I love to just meet all of my instructors that I can for lunch or coffee or something like that, and just ask them what they're learning about, ask them what they're reading, ask them what they're curious about, ask them what they're hearing from their clients. And once I have some of that knowledge, then I can take some of those ideas and choose different topics that I think would be interesting, that I think other people would be interested in. That's really been really effective here lately. What a time to be alive, right? There are so many ways between podcasts and books and web articles and LinkedIn. There's so many different ways that we can learn right now. And so just pulling like what's most interesting. But I have a document on my computer that's pages and pages and pages long of links and different articles that I'm like, oh, that would be interesting too. And what's really cool is now we've done it long enough where other people send me stuff too. So whether that's coworkers or clients or just people that know I like to learn, they'll send me different topics and I'm like, oh, I like that. That's fun to play with. And you have to keep in mind, our sessions are about an hour in length, so it's not long enough to really teach someone an in-depth conversation topic. But we can hit 3 or 4 points really, really well and give people time to really thoughtfully process something in that amount of time really, really well. So trying to figure out what those are and then making the most of it is just one of the joys of my position.
I love it. I love it. And as a new person to your team, I have so enjoyed learning from you and your process as I work to really kind of replicate it at our South Campus in Guthrie. And just so y'all know, Marcy is like the best team player. She lets me steal from her all the time and she encourages it. So it is wonderful.
Well, and considering the fact that you have one of my sold out sessions, I mean, you're quite impressive yourself. It's so much fun working with you, Julie, and I just love our friendship. I love our teamwork, and I love the ambiance in our office. It means the
Yes.
world when you get to come to work and have fun every day.
It does. It is awesome. So you mentioned the sessions are about an hour long.
Mhm.
So let's go into some of the, you know, details of like when they are, or is there like sorry, there is a fly attacking me.
Say
Um
yes.
what time are they? Are they like on the same date every month? And then I have a link that I'll pop in the comments so people can go and find the page where they're all listed.
Absolutely. So our sessions are usually the second Tuesday. Sometimes they veer a little bit off from that. If I have an instructor that has a really cool topic and they're not available on a second Tuesday, I'm not afraid to get flexible. So,
Yeah.
but generally the second Tuesday, the cost is $20. It includes a beautiful buffet that our catering team puts together. It's usually an entree and several sides and a lovely, lovely dessert. So people really get their money's worth. They run from 11:30 to 1, and they're here on our Stillwater campus. Julie has a similar format down at our South Campus in Guthrie with different catering, and it's just a great opportunity to connect. We usually give people 10 to 15 minutes once they arrive to sit down and eat and connect with the people around them. Used to, when we first started this format, we would provide people like a conversation topic and everything else. And now we just let it. It's a free for all, and it's so much fun. So come for the networking, come for the food. You'll walk away learning something. There's generally some handouts, and it's just a really fun opportunity.
It is so much fun, and I'm so glad that you were able to come and visit with us today and share about not only your process and kind of your history here at Meridian, but
Mhm.
also just kind of going more into the nitty-gritty and details of the lunchtime learning programs and how people can participate. So I did drop the link to the leadership and staff development page, the official link, the shortened link that I used for my presentation,
Mhm.
and then we've got shared on the Meridian page as well. Is there any other parting thoughts that you would like to leave our audience with before we wrap it up and run on to the next thing?
Yeah, I think the big piece that's been so invaluable to our success is finding our lane, and not
Mm,
necessarily staying in it, but figuring out what does that lane look like, and then being comfortable with trying to figure out like what could it look like, how might it shift. We are very much a team that is not afraid of change. We embrace it, we relish in it. We try to figure out, okay, how can we make this work best for us? And I think that's a good way to live as a leader as well, as trying to figure out what can I do, and then once you get
mhm.
that down, trying to figure out what's the next right thing. So that's been really fun. I'm grateful to work with a team of people that embrace that as well. And I appreciate you having me today, Julie. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you, Marcy. I've appreciated this conversation so much. We've had several people pop in on the comments. So I'll throw this with my friend Steven says that he has enjoyed it. And then, of course, we know this guy, Joe, another awesome person on our team. He's here watching too. Joe's doing great work as well.
Yes.
So we are 1 minute away from our deadline. I think that is a perfect way to wrap it up. So once again, everybody, thank you for being here on the Ascent. Marcy, thank you for being my guest. I hope to see you guys all again next month, the first Friday at noon. I don't have my guest for next month confirmed yet, but I will post that as soon as I do get it there. Hope you guys all have a wonderful August, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Uh,